Good morning. Welcome to the 9th episode of Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy. Man, it's kind of early for that. Got to warm up my vocal cords. I'm drinking a little coffee here, but really, who needs coffee when you got Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy? I do. Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy, the only podcast awarded the prestigious Energy Star label. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Energy Star label here in a bit. But let's start off this episode 9. I can't believe it's already been 2 months now that we've been on our podcast version of Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy. And we started off by talking about where our energy dollar goes each month. And I put a pie chart graphic on our Facebook page, Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy, just so you'd be able to reference that as you're listening to the show. So we started off, and I'm just going to recap it because we're going to finish it off this week. So basically, the largest portion of the bill, 50% on average of your monthly bill, goes to heating and cooling. Now, right now, it's been 100 degrees out for the last 2 or 3 days. There's a larger portion of your bill going to cooling. It's probably about 75% of your bill is going to cooling. And in the winter, if your electric heat, particularly in the dead of winter, the coldest month, which is the end of January into the first month of February, about 75% of your bill is going to heating. But it's 50% on average. The next piece of the pie is water heating, about 13%. Next is lighting at 10%. And we talked about, if you want to go back and listen to some of the shows, we've talked about each one of these pie wedges as a show. The next one is 7%, and that's to variable miscellaneous, which includes a number of things, which could be like your service charge or taxes, those kind of things. Those add up. Uncle Sam has to have his portion. The next piece is also 7%. We talked about these two combined last week. Electronics, 7% of your, and that's actually a growing number because we're adding more, households are adding more televisions, TVs, the big screen, and those are big users. And the way you normally can tell if something is a big user, if it puts off heat. And I promise you, those big TVs, if you walk by them or around the backside of them, you can feel the heat. And I noticed this past winter, my dog, Scout, and we may start devoting a little time to Scout. She was laying up by the TV, and we had it off the wall and on the floor because I was refinishing the wall behind it. But I thought it was maybe because she just wanted to be out in front of us and wanted us to stare at her, but like putting herself on display. But I don't think that was it. I think she was actually getting some residual heat from the TV because I don't keep it very, very warm in my house. My wife calls me the energy Nazi. I mean, I'm the one that has to take the phone calls here at work, on high bill concerns. So I have to practice what I preach. So when I say I set my thermostat at 68 degrees in the winter, that's what I do. And I may supplement that with a fireplace or, a space heater or electric blanket or electric throw or something like that. All those things make sense. Fireplace is not very efficient. Fireplace, actually, you lose they're only about 50% efficient, maybe a little less than that, because about 50% of the heat goes right up the chimney and out into the air. The cheaper you can find the wood, the better the deal. So if you got a lot of dead wood on your property, hey, you got a pretty good deal. You're recycling it. And the environmentalists really don't frown too much on firewood because they don't think it's additional carbon that's released. It's carbon that's been captured over time by the tree. Carbon dioxide. Trees, plants, they capture that. And it's locked in the plant until it dies. And then it will start to leach over time with dead wood. But you can speed that process up by burning it. But it's not adding to the carbon dioxide. That makes sense? It's like a net zero. What environmentalists frown upon, or anybody, I guess, for that matter, is new carbon dioxide. The next piece of the pie is what we're going to talk about today. 3 of them. And they all have to do with appliances, and that'll be a great segue into something else I want to talk about today, and that's the Energy Guide sticker. You've all seen it. It's yellow. Measures about 6 inches across by 9 inches tall. I mean, by 8 inches tall, probably, give or take. I mean, it varies in size, but that's kind of the average. 6 inches wide by 8 inches in height. But it's yellow, bright yellow, and really stands out. I've got a copy of one in my hand right now because I'm going to be reading from it and extracting information from it a little bit later. But the 3 next pieces of the pie are washer and dryer, which account for about 6% of your monthly electric bill. Your refrigerator or freezer and a standalone freezer, 5%. And then finally dishwasher, 2%. Now my home, dishwasher's a little lower than that because I typically hand wash most of the dishes. Not really. I did when I was a kid. I couldn't get away with that. My wife listens to the show, so she does most of the dishes. But we're the people that actually wash them, rinse them. We don't dry them, but we wash them until they're clean enough to eat off of, rinse them, and then we put them in the washer for whatever reason. I don't know. We should just use it as a drying rack. But we don't. We run it. It goes full cycle. So dishwashing accounts for about 2%. So back to the Energy Guide. Did you know over $1,200 of the average annual budget, American budget? And I have to say this, the American budget is probably typically higher than most any other country. But $1,200 goes towards operating kitchen appliances and heating and cooling equipment. All of these things, appliances, kitchen appliances, and heating and cooling, have the Energy Guide, which is developed by the Department of Energy, a branch of the U.S. government. So it's up to you whether you want to trust it or not. I look at these numbers and I think, are we just perpetuating a lie by talking about this? We are when we say, hey, they're easy to find, because they're not easy to find. I mean, I recently made a trip to one of the big box stores that sells home improvement things and appliances, and I purposely went on my way to the appliances and started looking, and I couldn't find maybe 2 out of 10, 20% of the appliances I could actually see a visible yellow Energy Guide. And their claim is they're on everything, that it's an appliance. But finally I started opening them up. They're not easy to find. So I'm like opening a refrigerator, looking inside the doors, and oh, voila, there it is. Or a freezer, a chest type standalone freezer. Where is it? I thought it might be on the outside here, easy to see. Oh no. You open it up and it's 3 feet deep and it's on the bottom. And if you don't have your readers, or you don't have really young eyes, you're not going to be able to read it. So, oops, sorry about that. I shouldn't talk with my hands. End up hitting the microphone. But no, they're not easy to find. But when you do find one, they are chock full of good information or useful info. So they'll have the manufacturer name and model and size and obviously what it is, so you can make, so if you don't know, if it's not obvious that you're looking at a dishwasher, it'll say dishwasher on it. It has the estimated yearly cost. For example, the one I'm holding here, standard capacity. That's another thing. It may say dishwasher, then capacity, and it may have some variation of that, standard or extra capacity or whatever. But the average yearly energy cost is $21. That's when used with an electric water heater. $13 when used with a natural gas water heater. And then there's a range, like from left to right, and it's a scale, and it'll say the cost range of similar models, and this is the estimated yearly energy cost. This model was not available at the time the range was published. Let's see, hold on. Scratch that. That doesn't make any sense. So it'll have a range. It'll be like on this one particularly, it says $20 to $43, and there's all these ranges in between. This one is $21. So this is a really efficient one, apparently. So it's on the far left side of the scale. And then the far right is the higher user, which is the less efficient model. It's $43. It'll also have the estimated yearly electric consumption, and that is measured in kilowatt hours. For this particular one, it's 150 kilowatt hours per year. And of course, there is a disclaimer, and it says your cost will depend on your utility rates and use. So I don't know how they figured this. Is it running the dishwasher once a day, once every 2 days, once every 3 days, once a week? Who knows? There may be some families where they've got, they're feeding 8 mouths total, and they have to run their dishwasher at least every day, maybe twice a day. And perhaps it's a couple, like my wife and I, when we're empty nesters, and maybe we don't run it and we get them prepared. Like I said earlier, we basically wash and rinse them and then put them in the dishwasher. And then maybe we wait 2 days, 3 days to run it because it's not full. You really don't want to run a half full dishwasher. It's not efficient. And that's when that, standing over the sink and, kind of hand washing them pays off, because you can do that, stick them in there and kind of forget about them for 2 or 3 days. Now, if you wash them as well as we do, you've got to remember if the cycle's been run or not. So keep track of that. There are magnets that are out there that say clean or dirty, and you just turn it over. You turn it 180 degrees one way or the other, and whatever's shown, you got to remember to turn it too. So it gets complicated. But the energy guide is helpful when you can find it. Oh, also, it will have on this the Energy Star label, if it is rated Energy Star, and that's another step that the Department of Energy puts on an appliance, and that they claim makes it more efficient than your standard. A little bit about the Energy Star program. It encourages the use of energy efficient products that save you money. The Energy Star label helps you identify the most energy efficient models. Again, they don't all carry it, so you kind of want to look for that. And typically there's a premium with that. But to qualify for the Energy Star label, a product must meet the EPA's most stringent guidelines and prove likely that the appliance will save you more than enough money over its lifetime to pay the difference. This is the key, in a less expensive model. Okay, that makes sense. Over the lifetime of the appliance, it's going to save you more money than the less expensive model. So that's what it takes to qualify for Energy Star. Now, if any of you are out there looking for an appliance, what are some of the other things you might consider before shopping? This is a key. This is a big deal. Measure. If you got a place for a dishwasher, measure. You need space that's large enough for a particular appliance. Make sure it's going to let you open the appliance door or lid fully. It has enough clearance for safe ventilation. So that's key. Read reviews, product reviews from experts and consumers alike. And those consumer reviews, those are the ones you trust. Experts get paid. Consumers don't. Consumers either like them or they don't. Now, some of them pull the trigger a little early. They might not fully understand the appliance and its functions and get upset and write a review before they've actually given a real opportunity. But for the most part, consumer reviews are very helpful. Reviews from experts can tell you things like how noisy they are, how much water they use, how likely they might need repair. Reviews from other consumers can shed light on common issues with product or positive comments regarding the quality and performance. And I would suggest if you're that type of person that leaves reviews, and I'm becoming that guy, I think as I get older, I get a little more frustrated maybe with things. I don't know, but I can go to a restaurant, and if I don't feel like it's up to par, I give them every opportunity to fix it. I'm not unfair, but I've left a couple of bad reviews. But in the same breath, I have left more positive than negative. If I go somewhere and I feel like I was treated above and beyond my expectations, and I maybe had just this outstanding server and the food was unbelievable, I'll let them know, because they need that. Because just like right now, I'm encouraging people to read reviews, and some people do that if they haven't been to a restaurant anymore, and it's right there at the tip of their fingers on the internet. It's like XYZ restaurant reviews, and then you just go through them, and maybe if they score like a 4.5 out of 5 stars and they have 1,000 reviews, you can probably feel pretty safe about going there and that you're going to get your money's worth. And that's without actually reading individual reviews. But I would encourage you to dig in and look at a little more, particularly on these appliances. Time for this day in history. August 16th, Madonna was born, 1958. I had the biggest crush on Madonna. Not anymore. She got old. I didn't. She did. No, I think all the guys back in the mid-'80s, early mid-'80s to the early 90s probably had a crush on Madonna. But then she got involved in politics and those kind of things and got old. This day in history, August 16th, 1920, was a gloomy day for the New York Yankees and the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland shortstop Ray Chappie Chapman steps into the batter's box to lead off the top of the 5th inning. The first pitch from the Yankees' Carl Mays struck the unhelmeted Chapman in the temple, and he crumbled to the ground. Though he makes his way, he's able to make his way off the field, just like all baseball players. He's tough. A short time later, Chapman collapses again and is rushed to the hospital. There, early the next morning, he became the first and only Major League Baseball player to die as a result of a direct hit by a pitch. As fast as they throw those balls, you think there would be more injuries like that. But fortunately now, at least now, And for recent history anyway, they've worn helmets that are designed to take a 100-mile-per-hour fastball. It's still going to smart, and you still may get a concussion, but it will likely save someone's life if it's a direct shot to the temple. Sticking with the baseball history, on this day in 1948 was a sad day for baseball fans and everyone else alike. Baseball legend George Herman Babe Ruth dies from cancer in New York City. For 2 days following, his body lay in state at the main entrance to the Yankee Stadium, and tens of thousands of people stood in line to pay their last respect. He was buried in Hawthorne, New York. Now, I remember Babe Ruth held the home run, total number of home run record for years, decades. But I was listening to the game where Hank Aaron beat Babe Ruth's record, and I was driving in my dad's truck. I was a passenger. We were going somewhere, and we were listening to the game on the radio, and I think it was broadcast nationally because they knew he was only a couple home runs away, so they knew they better broadcast whatever games he was scheduled to play, kind of on a national basis. Normally, you wouldn't hear, in our area, a baseball game on the radio, but it was pretty amazing to be a part of history and be able to hear that firsthand. I'm guessing that was 1974, 1975. I didn't look it up. Isn't it crazy how these baseball players, they all had nicknames. This first guy I was talking about, Ray Chapman, they called him Chappie. And there's George Herman, Babe Ruth, I think there was a lot of those. You don't hear the nicknames as much anymore. Remember Roger the Dodger, Roger Staubach? A lot of listeners may remember him, Roger the Dodger. On this day in 1977 was another sad day. Music icon Elvis Presley dies in Memphis, Tennessee. The older I get, the younger he seems. He was only 42. I don't know why I thought he was older than that, but he was 42 years old. The death of the king of rock and roll brought legions of mourning fans to Graceland, his mansion in Memphis. Doctors said he died of a heart attack, likely brought on by his addiction to prescription barbiturates. How sad. The guy had everything going for him, but he had a difficult adulthood. I mean, can you imagine being in his position in front of everyone, and all the expectations from so many? And that's why, entertainers and Hollywood stars and the like have a difficult time, and unfortunately they find comfort in, alcohol and drugs, and it's a sad situation. But I remember this. I remember when this happened as well. I was in the 6th grade, and my teacher, Mrs. Smith, was the biggest Elvis Presley fan. And I think we heard about it, and she came back to the class, and she was a mess. She was in tears and almost unconsolable. And I think she might have taken that afternoon off, and they had to bring in a substitute or something. I mean, it was bad. And she was upset. So he died on this day in 1977, August 16th. Or did he? Dun, 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 dun. I'm not one of those guys, conspiracy theorist. So, particularly with Elvis, but when Michael Jackson died, I thought, is this, he was due an album. I said, is this some kind of ploy? Is he going to go away for 6 to 8 months and then make this appearance and get lowered onto somebody's stage, and have a bunch of new songs for a new album and released, and apparently not. That was my thought at the time, though. I thought this could be some kind of big media stunt, and it would have been brilliant, but unfortunately, he passed as well. Well, we are about the end of the show, and again, the Energy Guide. Measures about 6 inches wide by 8 inches tall. It is chock full of useful information that can help you make comparisons when shopping for appliances. If it has the Energy Star label, that means that the premium that you pay for it, you will likely get back in the lifetime of your appliance through savings. So I would say if you don't succeed in finding the Energy Star or Energy Guide, the yellow sticker, try again. And if that means opening doors and pulling them out a little bit to see the backside of them, do that. And by the way, Morning Buzz with Energy Guy is the only podcast awarded the prestigious Energy Star label. Until next week, I appreciate you listening in. You can hear us on YouTube Music, Spotify podcast, Apple Podcast. I normally will put the show, it drops at 7 a.m. on those platforms. And then I will put a link sometime Saturday on our Facebook page. Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy. Till next time.